This is TechCrunch.
An old colleague always had a curious request at lunchtime. For health reasons, he was vegetarian, but he still missed the taste of ground beef. So he'd asked the chef in the cafeteria for a veggie burger that was cooked next to the beef patties. The grease that seeped over made the plant substitute taste that much better. The folks at Mission Barns must have overheard our lunchtime conversation. They have developed animal-free, cultured pork fat. The product just received approval from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the company exclusively told TechCrunch. The stamp of approval allows the startup to sell the fat to consumers. It's the first such product to reach the market, and it could unlock a host of fattened-up meat alternatives. It really enables anyone, any of our partners who are using our ingredient, to also launch a product into the market, Cecilia Chang, Chief Business Officer at Mission Barns, told TechCrunch. Scientists have been trying to culture meat for years. The world's first lab-grown burger hit food critics' mouths in 2013, though it cost an estimated $330,000. The costs have come down significantly since then, but a burger made from lab-grown beef still costs several times that of a McDonald's classic. Part of the problem is that muscle cells require something to grow on, whereas most cells cultured today grow in large vats of liquid media. But fat isn't as picky, making it easier to grow at a cost that consumers can swallow. And when it comes to flavor, it packs a punch. To grow the fat, Mission Barns first takes a small sample, like a biopsy, from a living pig. It then introduces it into a bioreactor containing a growth media. Because fat floats, the startup had to develop its own bioreactor to ensure the cells were evenly distributed throughout the media. If they clumped at the top, they wouldn't get access to enough food to grow properly. Mission Barns' first products are bacon, meatball, and sausage alternatives made using pea protein paired with its cultured pork fat. The startup is also supplying other companies with its fat to incorporate into their own recipes. In the long run, Chang said, selling to other food manufacturers will be its main business. Pea protein is a common ingredient among alternative meats, but Chang said that Mission Barns' recipe differs. Because the fat gives you so much flavor, you're actually taking out some of the most expensive ingredients in an alternative protein product, the artificial flavorings, she said. Chang also said that, perhaps incongruously, Mission Barns' cultured pork fat should allow for healthier alternative meats. Recipes won't need as much salt to mask the pea protein taste, and the company can tweak what the cells eat, boosting omega-3 fats, for example. For future products, Mission Barns is mulling pork fat with a more intense flavor. You can get away with adding less of the fat, and that has the nutritional profile of a salmon fat, Chang said. When we talk to partners, they're like, "Oh, hell yeah, sign me up." An unproven small launch startup is partnering with a severely depleted SPAC trust to do the impossible. Go public in a deal they say will be valued at $400 million. Innovative Rocket Technologies, Inc., iRocket, and BPGC Acquisition Corp., a special-purpose vehicle company founded by former Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross, is aiming to close the transaction in the fourth quarter of this year. Interestingly, the SPAC has been depleted of most of its cash after it raised $345 million in its IPO in March 2021. According to a September 2024 filing with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, the SPAC had returned much of its money to shareholders when it failed to find an acquisition target by September 2024 and held $30.5 million in trust. However, just 16 days later, the company reported in an 8K that another $28.8 million had been redeemed, leaving the trust as of that date with just 0.5% of its original amount, or $1.6 million. The remaining shareholders, primarily the SPAC's sponsors, agreed at that time to extend the date to find an acquisition target to March 2026. The startup, iRocket, was at one time buzzy because it was backed by venture capital firm Village Global, which counts billionaires like Bill Gates, Eric Schmidt, and Reid Hoffman among its limited partners. Even still, iRocket is a surprising target for a take-public deal. The company has raised only a few million in venture funding, according to PitchBook, in an industry that is known for being extremely capital-intensive. Since its founding in 2018, it has yet to conduct a single test flight of its Shockwave launch vehicle. In that time, it has been overtaken by other firms like Stoke Space and Firefly that are better capitalized and farther along in their hardware development. The market has changed too. As of 2023, iRocket described Shockwave as being able to carry 300 to 1,500 kilogram payloads, and that space has become crowded with vehicles like Firefly's Alpha and Rocket Lab's Electron, both of which have flown customer payloads. If iRocket can prove out the rest of its value proposition, full reusability, rapid refurbishment, and 24-hour responsiveness, it could prove very competitive, but that's a tough series of goals. The New York-based startup lists just 4 employees, excluding board members, on LinkedIn. Its contracts include an $18 million deal with the Air Force Research Lab and a $1.8 million contract with the Space Force. A PR firm representing iRocket and the SPAC declined to respond to TechCrunch's questions. The special purpose acquisition vehicle has a checkered past. Operating under the name Ross Acquisition Corp. II, it tried to take public biopharma company Eprinoia Therapeutics in January 2023, but terminated the deal 8 months later. After failing to consummate a transaction, the NYSE subsequently commenced delisting proceedings against the SPAC last March. RAC2 changed its name to BPGC Acquisition Corp. And now has until March 2026 to close a deal. But given the SPAC's current cash reserves, if iRocket's existing shareholders expect to be paid much cash for their equity, the two parties will need to pull in a big chunk of money from private equity investors in a PIPE, private investment in public equity round. That's all for now. For more stories like this one, visit TechCrunch.com.